Hi, this is Julie at Love's Beginning, and I'm going to talk on a topic that I've been talked to about for quite some time, but I've never talked about it. I've just been listening and learning. So I'm going to lead with fear and trepidation because I'll just be upfront about it. The topic is food, and food is a really it's a minefield to me. It seems like there's so much judgment about it and so much feeling of separate self security in knowing about a food, in knowing about its properties and its probabilities for damage, for upholding or uplifting a particular body. So, what I've been shown is something beyond all that, beyond the entire matrix of that. And I'm not, this is the fine line for me, so I have to be careful. I am not here to argue that food has no effect and no actual power of its own. But what has been suggested and shown to me is that really any separate thing has no power of its own. And it's only through our chosen beliefs and predictions and need for judgment, need for categorization, need for identification, need for safety, need for saying this is this and that is that, and I will push this away and I will pull this to me. Um, it's our need for that that gives us predictable effects with these things. So this is huge. If you look at diabetes, for example, our insistence on a particular thing and what the particular thing does. Now, we could just stop right there and say, look at all the scientific studies that indicate that the explorers in this area of knowledge are right. Well, that is the knowledge game. We accumulate the knowledge we think we're going to find. Or even if we find something surprising, we've had a desire to find something surprising or contrary. So we find that, and then we document it, and then we share it with others, and they come into that resonance, and they find the same thing, and they experience the same thing. It's all about choice and resonance and looking for the power in the separate one thing, in the apple or the Snickers bar, rather than seeing it all as a projection. So, one of the things that was pointed out to me about food is, and it really stopped me in my tracks, because if you want to press my button, you just tell me that I'm hurting somebody with something, and I'll listen. It's kind of an advantage and a dysfunction at the same time. It's an attachment to release, but that's how it got my attention. So what I was told was, okay, so if you're going to decide that oranges, let's take something people think is beneficial, but let's just play with it so we don't get into too much judgment territory here. If we're going to decide that oranges are harmful, and we're going to go on an orange-free diet, and we're going to tell others about our orange-free diet and the benefits it's given us with sincerity and with a desire to help, with a desire to heal, to help other people who are experiencing things. We can't say anything is bad. We can just step back and look at the structure of it. So when, let's say I was on this orange-free diet, and maybe I wrote a book about the orange-free diet and the benefits of it, and I'm like the orange-free diet person. I built up my identity about giving power to a separate thing that seems to be outside of myself. In this case, it's the power to destroy. Someone's found that oranges are very destructive, and this is all pretend play game, and so is all of this, and it's helping us to see that. And so I'm going to tell people and encourage people and help them on the path of giving up oranges and leaving them behind. So if we think of each person with sort of like energy field around them, right? It's not quite as simple as that, because like when I think of somebody somewhere, someone else, I'm also sending my energy there. So it's not just like around this body, but we'll simplify it. Um, so I'm thinking the oranges are very destructive. And then I'm coming into contact with somebody for whom oranges have always been innocent or neutral or just didn't matter. La la la, enjoying life, going on along with my life. And suddenly somebody comes in with the message that oranges are very destructive and predicting negative outcomes for that person. We're projecting our pain, our sense of feeling lost, our wanting to be found outward on specific things by giving those specific things qualities, ability to harm or to help within the illusion. But there's something beyond all that. And once I saw that my tendency to see things as damaging was also projecting out a probability of damage and negative experience for others. Oh, you're eating this and such. I can see how that's going to go for you. You're eating this and such. You're 33% more likely to experience this and such. I realized, oh my goodness, food is a really judgmental issue and an issue with lots and lots of projection. So where do we go from here? Well, it's interesting to see how we try to seek our safety through food. I'm going to make sure my body stays small enough to be acceptable to people by eating these foods and not eating these foods. Or I'm going to make sure I don't die by eating these foods and not eating these foods. But there comes also a moral aspect to this. For many, many years, I was, and this is not right or wrong, it's neither one. It's clearly neither one. It's just part of my journey. I was very focused on trying to eat organic. I had a business, that online business for a short time that was like organic, free trade, vegan. I was vegan. Now a lot of that still, or just some of that still stays with me. I'm not against organic food, but I am also not afraid of not eating it. Is that entirely true? There's probably a space where that is not entirely true for me. I gotta be really honest about every single little thing that's coming up in me, because every single little thing is a point of projection out into that world. There was the desire to control through getting it perfect, through not harming anything or anyone. But with that came a lot of judgment. So eventually, I had to stop whatever was attached to a judgment. These people who are eating all the meat are doing this and such to the planet. I realized I was projecting out a story of harm and damage to the planet, and I was really strongly believing in it, and I was projecting that future, and I was wanting it in a way. It gave me my identity. So for a while, after I had a couple of awakening experiences, and a lot of this, like these information, threats, habituation, they just got blasted out of my head, right or wrong, previous to that, if I thought it was right or wrong. So I didn't know even, my judgments about food seemed to have left the building, and it was disorienting. And so I didn't even know, am I a vegetarian? I I don't know. So I went to a restaurant with my friends, and I ordered a BLT, and they were wondering what would come next. Like, is this the end of it? Well, I picked something that was not very thick or noticeable, and that was surrounded by a lot of vegetation, because I still have a squeamishness about it. So I ate it, and it was nothing. I felt nothing. I felt no guilt. I felt no triumph. I felt no further attraction to meat. I see that others do. I I don't still. And that's it. That's it. That's just what's happening now. The former me would have felt like I need to get on a track toward sustainability and toward morality and toward good treatment of others. And I must, out of anguish, must do this thing to fix what we have done wrong. But that was just too heavy and also not true, because with it came a projection of a future that I was actually making in my world. So I had to put that down. But there is a fine line here. That doesn't mean that we want to harm others. It means that we go very, very deeply into the question of harm, very, very deeply into the question of cause and effect, very, very deeply into the desire for this food, the desire for that food, the desire to show up in a certain way, the desire for a particular identity. All of that is comes up when we're considering food. Um, and I'm not at total peace with food either. I feel all these conflicting judgments and perspectives on food, but I just overall have a much more neutral sense of it, because I know and feel the flip side. When I'm going to attach to blueberries is the food as the food everyone should be eating, then if they're not eating them, I'm projecting something for them. And if I'm projecting something out for them, some negative outcome, I'm hiding from a self-hatred and a fear and a sense of being out of control that I'm not facing in myself. And so I became a lot more interested in facing that and looking at what I was projecting out on others. A lot more interested in that than in controlling. This goes to everything: food, exercise, controlling attractiveness, body size, muscle mass, even health, because there's a sense of threat. Am I going to do this exercise because if I don't, I'm going to die sooner? What kind of life is that? You live your life fearing death. And I could feel the impact of that so much more. I could feel the fear present in what had been my daily goals, struggles, decisions. I could feel the fear present in that so much more. So I had to set it down. So going back to food, is there anybody to judge? Is there anything to judge? Yes, I would have said from my previous position of anguish. We have to stop doing all this harm. Well, I had to go very, very deep into that anguish and to look at the architecture of it and to be curious about it and to see why I was showing up as such a beacon of anguish. And there's a point, if you go deep down into it, there's a point past which there aren't any words. There aren't any words, but there is just very simple guidance. Well, today is this day, and I'm either going to eat food or not. That was another thing that came up for me. The belief that we need food, or we need all this food, or we need this amount of food, or we need to eat 3 times a day, that's just a belief too. And food seems to supply a lack. Food seems to keep us busy and distract us. Doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that I have stopped eating. I haven't. I've been all over the place with it. But sometimes food gets weird for me, and it's like I don't even understand it for a while. It's like I can't contemplate putting that in my mouth right now. It's not something I relate to, but honestly only for a little while, and then then I'll relate to it again. So it is as it is. I just wanted to point to the projection aspect of deciding food definitely is a certain way, because we're imposing a limit upon the world we're making by projection right now. And we don't need more limits. We need to see through the limits and free ourselves from those limits. So this kind of rehashing of it for me has helped me. And I hope this exploration helps you in a way that does not judge you at all and fully accepts where you are, what you're doing, and appreciates your role in relation to everybody else. So, best of luck to you and food. Thanks.